it's a limited time. These don't really give a time limit. Like whether they start here and they progress for all the rest, it's just the authority given for this to happen, full reign of men's wills type thing, and allowed to happen, or whatever. But this is not going on all the time. It's a specific event that happens. And so you have the earthquake. And so all this is chapter 6. That's how it starts. And then going on, we have, right after that, we have dealing with 4 angels. And they're told not to harm or anything and to hold the winds. So again, we get a little revelation of what the angels are like and some of their ministry. And also I'm going to start using my chart here. In chapter 7, we have the 144,000. Now whether this starts the sealed servants, 144,000 starts with that, and then also the sealed ones. I think we put that up here. Yeah. The praise of the martyred ones. It's in 13 and 19, I think it is. Their praise also chapter 5, 13, I think 14. Yeah, it sounds like where every tongue shall confess, and every animal and every creature. It sounds like that's at near the end. But anyways, 144,000, we see later on that they're preserved right up to the coming of the Lord. Every one of them. Well, it's another characteristics. They're males, they're virgins, they're Jews, they're from each, there's 12,000 each from each tribe. They have a ministry, they can't be harmed or sealed. Doesn't seem like any of these judgments or anything have an effect on them, specifically. Like, I think especially the woe judgments and that. And this all here then is chapter 7. Deals with them. And then we continue on. There's like parenthesis here. And you continue on right over to the 7th seal. And what's that? 7th seal is silence for a half hour. Now, this is where some, they go on and say, oh, because it doesn't show a judgment like every one of these, and now all of a sudden it comes up with trumpets that never were mentioned. It just showed you the seals. That the 7th seal is actually the 7 trumpets. Now, and also because it seems to progress chronologically. It doesn't say that specifically. Okay, it can be assumed. Or that's if this view is held too. Others hold that the 7th seal actually happens right here. It's the half hour either just before or after the Lord's coming. Just before he comes out of heaven, the half hour. Because they see them progressing like this. And everything underneath it, or just after the battle's won, the half hour of silence. But whatever case there is the 7th seal, and there is silence for the space of a half hour. And really what's going on right there is speculation. It doesn't say. Then you have, also in here you have another angel, and censer, earthquake. He gets the censer full of the prayers, whatever, and whips it to the earth. Boom, there's an earthquake. Every so often, there just seems to be an earthquake. Almost like giving a signal to the people on earth. Something has gone on in heaven and progressing. But anyways, there's the angel with the censer. Then we go on then with the trumpet judgments. And you have the first trumpet. What happens? What area is affected? Okay. So I figured the first 4, and they repeat for the vials too. First 4, it goes sea, earth, salt water, fresh water, heavenlies. That's how it progresses for that. So this one is the earth. And you have that which is spread out, and it affects 1/3. All green stuff and everything is destroyed. Then you have the second trumpet. And this deals with the sea. And that's where you get like the mountain goes in, you get the ships destroyed, maybe a tidal wave, whatever. everything else is destroyed in there. It's like blood. How much is affected? Third. Third trumpet. Okay. I'll just put water. How much is affected? Third. That's the wormwood. Men die. And these things, men are dying, but it doesn't really give a total how many are dying. But men are dying through this. And fourth trumpet.
Sun and moon start
Right.
to shine for a third time.
So the heavenlies.
Or 2/3 time.
So it's cut a third. It's like, ooh, cut it down, everything goes down. And we have no problem with that because we saw before there are angels in charge of physical things. That's their ministry. They're serving that way. And God told them to turn it down. Remember, we're seeing all the things, the effects of the wars and the famines and the plagues that are going on. These plagues here are going to have effect on food and just living conditions in general. And it's going to be a really, really hard time. Sealed or not sealed. It's going to be a hard time, but the Lord always provides for His own. So this all here, seventh seal, up to the fourth trumpet, that's chapter 8. Then right then we have another angel. Another angel. Yeah. 3 woes. And they correspond to the last 3 trumpets, which are known as the trumpet judgments or 3 woe judgments. And woe because basically the man, you ain't seen nothing yet. You've had casualties, but now these next things are coming against you, against mankind. And you're really going to get it. And it's like you haven't seen anything yet. And again, it's always, as we see, it's like almost each time the Lord is trying to get those to repent. Giving them the message. People will hear this. They'll know. And so then you have the 5th trumpet, which is?
Demon spirits released from the attic in the form of locusts that
Right.
for 5 months and they can't die.
So the locust, and there's this torment. It's almost like getting a taste of hell on earth. They're going to be and wailing of teeth and gnashing of teeth and wailing and torment in hell. This is only 5 months and they can't kill themselves. You don't die in hell either. And whether it's supernatural, whatever, they can't kill themselves. They can't stop it from death. And it's almost maybe providential. God doesn't want them to die. He wants them to repent. But He shows them. You have the locusts and the torment. And it's 5 months. So we are given a time period there anyways. Specific thing. And then you have the 6th trumpet, which is
The 4 angels.
right, the 4 demons in the river Euphrates who have the 200 million horsemen. And it sounds like maybe little horses and maybe demonic type men. They may be used. It's surmised, and you see in your notes that at this time there's supposed to be like a limited war with the kings of the north, according to Old Testament prophecy. And that maybe these are used then by the beast, and that to control that, to also finally size up, because it's getting very close now to the mid-trib, to size up his kingdom, and to finally put men one way or another under his control. Totally. It's given over to him authority, but now he'll have total control. Whether they like it or not, they're going to start doing stuff. So you have the 4 angels and 200 million. And it says there for how many men are killed, right?
Yeah, 1/3 are killed by the smoke and the fire and the brimstone which comes from the horse's mouth.
Right, 1/3 men. Now, of course, it's probably 1/3 men, not of the original total of men, but what's left. But generally speaking, taking into account other things, these 2 fractions that what does that equal, anyways? 1/4 and 1/3. That's 3 and 4. 7/12, so almost a half. That's a half of the world has already been killed by this time, approximately. So you're down to maybe 2.5 billion people. Then you have this year. Then that's chapter 9, Revelation. Then we had another angel in the book, scroll. It's the little scroll. That's actually the word for it, the little scroll. It's interesting. Angel, 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 angel. You can see the continued ministry. Anyways, the angel gives the scroll. You have the 7 thunderings, which told not to record, and John is given the scroll, which some say could be he's given like the title deed. He's representing the body of Christ. He's given the title deed of the earth, which is supposed to be called hairs over, basically saying it's coming and here it is. Either that or it's just the word, because when he eats it, it's sweet to his mouth and bitter to his belly. Then you have, not just itself, it's chapter 10. And then you have, I'm bored. And then you have the parenthesis about the 2 witnesses. And they're given a time frame. 3 1/2 years, 42 months. And they're able to stop the rain. They're able to call down, they have fire that proceeds out of their mouth, anyone who tries to harm them, and plagues. Doesn't say what they are, just plagues. And we also know that the same word's used here for these and also the 7 vials, because they're called the 7 last plagues. And they're last plagues, and there's first plagues, and these are also plagues. So maybe, it doesn't say specifically, maybe, but to the people on the earth's view, they're the actual ones that look like they're doing all this. They're the ones calling all this different judgment by their word in a sense, but it's always by the authority of heaven, which we see. And then finally, this is chapter 11, and finally is the 7th trumpet. So these 2 things, chapter 11. And then right here, it brings in, because right around that thing seems to be a lot of stuff going on. That's around the mid, it seems, because they go 42 months after they're killed, and you also have about how they're killed by the beast and stuff, but he himself was killed probably first, maybe by them, doesn't say, but by the sword, a wound, and he's resurrected as such. And if you go into notes, it's not possible for Satan to resurrect anybody. He doesn't have the power. Only God does. So maybe may have been feigned or something. But anyways, this as we'll see about the beast, he has it. He went to the abyss. He went to the bottomless pit. And it's interesting about the bottomless pit. Later on in the notes, because we're going to be discussing, especially dealing with hell and stuff, Hades. Remember everything about saying, I think it's in the center of the earth. Well, if you have something right in the center, it's bottomless, because everything else is ceiling. You're right in the center of something. There's no going any deeper. So it's bottomless. You're always going up, no matter which way you go. And so Morris also had a point too. He figured by all the amount of people you could basically have, and demons even, you could fit in a sphere of 10 miles. In a sphere of 10 miles, you could fit, if they had formed the cars, you could fit them all in there, no problem. In a 10 mile. Remember, the radius to the center of the earth is approximately 3,500 miles. So 10 miles is a little drop. Anyways, it's just a lot of speculation. It's an interesting point. But anyways, 7th trumpet. And what you have here, it doesn't seem like much of a judgment. And that's why, again, they conclude like this wasn't much of a judgment. Just silence. And then all of a sudden these appear, which weren't discussed beforehand. It wasn't talked about 3 major judgments. It only seemed right from chapter 4 and 5, it only seemed like one thing, just opening the seals and you get the title deed. But it seems this last thing almost intensified. This last 7 actually did these 6 and the next 7. And so it seems more intensified. And it was the last one that finally, boom, this opens it, he gets the title deed. But each time it's for the purpose, I think, of getting people to repent and then also preparing others for judgment when they harden their heart at each time. The seventh trumpet seems to be praise, but it's praise of transference of the kingdom. And so it seems it's right around maybe this time when these witnesses, if you're going chronologically in a sense too, these witnesses are killed. You also have the next one's about the beast and his reign for 42 months. So it almost seems to go chronologically as you kind of go through, with some things looking forward and back a bit, but basically dealing with it at the same time.
There's another earthquake, which I think is significant. He has the seventh trumpet, there's an earthquake, the seventh seal.
Earthquake. There's an earthquake, it says here, an earthquake?
When this seventh trumpet is sounded, and
right.
They have their praise and that, and the temple of God is open, and the ark is there, there's an earthquake and hail.
Actually, that is important because that corresponds to the same thing here before the next trumpets. So again, it could be that signal to the earth, boom, the next set's coming. So you have the praise and earthquake, and this is probably right around mid-trib this is happening. Give or take, days or whatever, these next chapters are transferring. Because at the same time, we'll see in chapter 12 how Satan probably had this battle with Michael around this time, and then he's out of vengeance to get the remnant. So that takes us to there. I'm going to, this is progressive. I'm going to start back up here and work down again. So then we have, that's chapter 11. In chapter 12, we have the first part is talks about, then they finally realize, and this also seems to go around about the abomination of desolation, Daniel 7 and stuff, because now Israel realizes they've been duped. This isn't the Christ. This is the Antichrist. This is the beast. And just like in Matthew 24, they're told to flee. When these signs happen and you see that final abomination, flee. Flee Jerusalem. And they take that sign. And this is where you get the thing where they flee, and they're as a woman that they flee. The dragon tries to kill her with the flood of his mouth, whether that's a flood of men, an army chasing after, or water, because it is in the valley that they flee, probably either to Moab or to the other side of the Dead Sea, either side. But either way, the Lord consumes that judgment, or that chasing after, just like parallel again to Pharaoh when he chased after the nation Israel, and he killed them at the waters. So he protects them and he feeds them for the rest of the time. So you have chapter 12. Right here you have Israel. And again, it's a time period of 3.5 years. And also in chapter 12, you have Satan cast down the fight, and he's cast out. And this all deals with, this is chapter 12. And so he goes after them with a vengeance, the remnant. There's probably still others who aren't with this group, like who are in the other cities of the world or whatever. It even sounds like later on, by being told to come out there, even later on, it's amazing how they could do this, but even later on, there are some in Babylon even that have not yet come out, because they're warned to get out. Judgment is coming. But anyways, so that's the main group. Then you have chapter 13 is the deals with the two beasts. That's the two beasts. It deals with what we believe is the Antichrist. We know as the Antichrist, the political ruler, and the beast, the false prophet. So the false Christ and the false prophet, and it's given a time span of 42 months, or maybe in days. I forget which one, but you have the of course, these aren't terms it's using, but and they rule. It tells about how actually this system too, this false Christ, the person in the system, actually has been on, is that great beast that's talking about the Gentile nations that will be judged, goes from Egypt, all 7 of the mountains. I don't think is Rome, and the 7 hills. You go with the arguments again. Those are actual hills, aren't mountains, and there's more than 7 actually in Rome and all this. Plus, it doesn't have that extent. Rome was only really in power since 300. Rome, as Roman Empire, has been in power for a couple hundred years BC, and Rome as the ecclesiastical system is 300 AD, whereas this other system goes almost right back to Tower of Babel, when where the transference of power after the confusing of languages. The next major world empire to rise up is Egypt, and they too persecuted God's people. Then you have Assyria. They too persecuted people and also took up the northern tribes. Then you have Babylon, which did the last two. Then you have Medo-Persia, who again were used to bring them back, but also the other things with nearly the slaughtering of the Jews again through Esther, and Satan doing that again, trying to slaughter the Jews. And then you have the Grecian, and with Alexander. Then after that you have the Roman, and each one put them under, didn't allow them to do what they wanted. Then after that, you don't have anything listed. That's when the next one shall come. And that next one is a composite of 10 rulers at the same time. And then I think the last, and out of it shall come the beast. So there's the beast, the system as a whole, which is both, and you got the harlot, later on we'll see the harlot who rides on top of it, is probably more than just, again, I believe, the Roman Catholic system. Again, they only around 300 AD, because it says to see to all the nations from all time and stuff. I think, again, it's the same kind of religious system, which deals with polytheism, evolution, all that kind of thinking, all those man-made, humanistic, all these different philosophies, anything that excludes God, started from the Tower of Babel. And it's used it all the way through. It's always been associated. All these different nations had this polytheistic or animalistic or whatever type of beliefs, anything but true monotheism. And they've also been used against those who have held to it. So anyways, those are in the notes, and you can read it. So that's where the false Christ comes out of. And then later the false prophet, who during this time uses his authority then to boost up people to support him, using lying wonders and stuff. I believe, again, we looked at a little bit, 2 Thessalonians, I think, happens around here. This is the strong, saying them strong delusion. This is where they're going to find and believe. They'll see who he is. There's no more hiding who he is, basically, this time. When he's got the power, he's revealing himself because he sets up people to worship him. Now, this is nothing new to these cultures again. I mean, look at the Caesars. Look at the different ones. And but this time it'll look like he's resurrected. It looks like he's been to the pit. And also you have the false prophet calling them fire out of the sky and doing all this stuff. And so it really sizes up his kingdom.
Yeah, how is it? They're going to know what people don't worship him now. What they didn't actually worship.
Yep. Yeah, beheaded. In fact, there's a lot of, besides 144,000, there's going to be a lot of ones right here, the ones who have died or martyred. And there's ones who it says did not take the image, and this is the other thing. This is the mark too, is established during this time, who did not take the mark or worship the image, showing that this happens during the second half. Because this, we know, is very definite through Daniel and stuff, happens mid-trib. And so that's why I see these two things as separated. The two witnesses here, and they could have stretched all the way. I don't know exactly when they started. Well, I'd have to. They're a time limit, 3.5 years. And in this, for 3.5 years, they do the mark and no buying or selling. And this is later at the same time when you have the three angelic messengers going through and the everlasting gospel, talking about Babylon, it's going to be destroyed. And then talking about don't receive the mark. You're going to get judged. So you have those that are faithful of it, and there's going to be multitudes. It says multitude, myriads of believers. Tribulation saints who finally realize because of this. Then we have, so that's chapter 13. Then chapter 14 is just what I mentioned. I don't think it has a time limit on them, though. No, it doesn't. It just says 3 angels, but it could be during this period, but it might start later on. It could be halfway through. It doesn't really say how long they do this for. But you have 3 angels. So it's interesting. Again, you have angels. You really have the ministry of angels. Now, some of them are there. It's argued whether or not it's an angel or a Christophany. Christ appearing again, and maybe as the angel of Jehovah. But you have angels ministering throughout with his judgment and stuff. Others being held back, and others with the judgments itself, not just blowing the trumpets, but enacting them. Like maybe the sun being turned down a third and stuff. The stars. So you have the three angels, and you have the one has the message of the gospel, another one has judgment of Babylon, and one about the mark. So God doesn't leave himself without a witness. You have the two here, there's three more here. They're going to hear. And you still have these other ones, 144,000, who go all the way through. Then that was chapter 14. Chapter 15 deals with the saints and the angels. And I think that's the 7 angels. These are the ones that think they're going to get the bowls, right? Chapter 15. Yeah, this is finally the pomp and splendor of the final judgments to come, what some assume are associated with the 7th trumpet because of this changeover, and finally all these things are revealed in that. Now comes the last judgment, the third woe. So the third woe has, if that's all corresponding, the third woe has 7 judgments. And you'll see these ones, they're again related to this areas, and but they're different. Their extent is total, whereas these were to a third and stuff. This extent's total, and
well, it's specific that the third woe is when Satan is cast down to the earth. Is when it starts. Like that's what the angel says. Woe unto you, inhabitants of the earth, which Satan's come down to. So that all this other stuff is in parentheses because it also shows like Armageddon in here. Chapter.
Armageddon is until
but
19.
It's talking about the vintage and the harvest.
Yeah.
Okay, which is like at the end. So like that's all in parentheses.
There's one. It actually says that this is the end of the second one, and one is yet to come.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas.
Okay, I'll find that where it says about woe unto for Satan to come down to. Because that's the third time he said woe.
Right. Which could correspond to it. It still fits because this is when all this changeover happens. The final revealing, the final empire and stuff, and the false Christ and prophet. These guys are dead. So then the Lord sends the 3 angels. You have the saints and the 7 angels. That's chapter 15. Now, chapter 16 is what we finished at. And let's read through it and then put them down. It's the 7 vials or bowls. Starting at verse 1. And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, Go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth.
And the first night in Florida, bowl upon the earth, and they fell stubble, and became so sorrow upon the men who had nothing to do, so upon them that earth.
And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea.
And the third angel poured out his bowl upon the rivers and the fountains of water, and they became blood.
And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, who art and was and shall be, because thou hast judged us.
For they shall be none of sin and prophets shall not have taken in blood. They are worthy.
And I heard another out of the altar say, Even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments.
And the fourth angel poured out his bowl upon the sun, and the power was given unto them to scorch men with fire.
And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which hath power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory.
And the fifth angel poured out his bowl upon the throne of the beast. And his kingdom was full of darkness, and they God repented to glory.
And blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not unto him.
And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the dried up. Then
And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet.
For they are the spirits of the demons working miracles that go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of righteous deeds, till on men.
Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and see his shame.
And gathered them together into a place, the town called.
And the seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, It is done.
And you were voices of thunder and lightnings, and you were figures to the princess of the mountain, and upon you, the mother and the faith of you.
And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
And every island fled away, and the mountains were not felt.
And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail. For the plague thereof was exceeding great.
Okay, so we have the last great judgments on the vials. And we have the first one. First bowl upon the earth, and so it kind of relates to upon the earth, but this one has a greater extent. This was on green grass and everything. This will affect all the men who have not the mark, who are not sealed, and which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. And the second angel poured. So this affects all men, and it's sores. So I had to fix the men. 139. Okay, so you have the sores upon them. And then the second angel poured, and the blood, and every living soul died in the sea. All of it. Total. So the second bowl is the seas, and it's all.
And that's something, isn't that a point that says like the blood of a dead man?
Mm-hmm.
And a dead man, doesn't the blood separate?
And coagulate, or I don't know.
Because
When Christ died, the water and the blood separated.
right.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's an image. That's the first time it says like the blood of a dead man.
Yeah. I don't know what, I didn't look that up to see what exactly that means, or medically, like, if someone had facts. Some of the books I read didn't give any facts or anything. But it would be interesting to find out. But we do know that everything dies because of it. And, of course, it's as the blood. It isn't the blood of a dead man, but it's as the blood. But whatever it is, it kills everything. So just total. Imagine, by now, there's going to be nothing left after these judgments. Who's going to live? Unless it was cut short. You know? Not just the swords, but these ones that follow. Then you have the third bowl. And that, of course, is going to deal with the fresh water.
Becomes blood.
And it sounds, again, if it follows in context with the rest, it doesn't give specifically how much, but it sounds probably like it's all of them, all the rivers, and all the fountains. So the fresh water is gone too. Fourth bowl. And of course, the reason for it says they have shed the blood of the saints and prophets, and I was giving them blood to drink. They're worthy for it. So the rivers of blood they shed of the people, especially maybe tribulation saints or whatever, they get to drink it now, in a sense. And it's almost fitting to judgments before, basically an eye for an eye. It's, the old style of judgment, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You shed blood, you're going to drink it. Plus you're going to live by the sword, die by the sword. That's later on, we'll see that. Whether they or people that take people captive or killed by the sword, that's all they'll perish to or experience. And then, fourth one, upon the sun, and they scorched. See, this one's different. This one was tuning it down in the heavenlies, and it was everything. It was the sun, the reflection on the moon, and the other stars. This one sounds like just the sun, and it's turned up. And of course, it's interesting facts Morris gives about, and others about sun flares, and all it can be naturally explained. Because remember, too, people keep, it's repeated about 3 times here. They repented not, they repented not, they repented not. It goes through. You can see each time the Lord has a purpose for these judgments too. But anyways, you have specifically the sun, and it scorches. And again, it doesn't say, I don't think, they blaspheme and stuff, have power over, they recognize it, which have power over these plagues. They recognize that, and he's still not repenting. And repent not to give him glory. It doesn't say how long it goes on for, and doesn't say how many die or anything. But again, the sword judgment, this is nothing like hell. It's almost like trying to show them, you really want to go to hell? This is it. This is like a foretaste. To a limited degree, you really want to go to hell. You know, the locust-like creatures, and the torment, the gnashing of teeth, the scorching, the heat. This is nothing compared to hell. And they repented not. And the 5th bowl is interesting. This time, you can almost see it. And you can go through all the arguments again, whether it's talking about Jerusalem is Babylon, or Rome is Babylon, or Babylon is Babylon. I kind of like the view that Babylon is Babylon. That's one thing. The nation, the thing that astonished people, Babylon as such is like dead, mort. And but not totally wiped out like the Old Testament scriptures say. And that's all of a sudden it's resurrected. All of a sudden, in a short amount of time, maybe power is transferred, whatever, short amount of time, it's the economic center of the world. This is it. And the beast probably resides there. Now, usually, being the headquarters, it's going to have all the things. Maybe some of these judgments, it's kind of not protected from by the Lord, but they have all the money, they have all the stuff. So things like water, they probably get their own systems and purification. This is why the Euphrates River, when it dries up, is important. No water for Babylon. No water for Babylon. Not only does it allow the kings of the east, saying it's just like the Lord drawing them to Armageddon, come, making it easy for them. It doesn't seem to make sense, though. Like a modern war machine of any type, a river is no problem. Doesn't matter how big the river is, they can get across it. But for some reason, he dries it to allow them just that ease or whatever. Maybe they're all on foot, I don't know. But bridges, you know.
It has to be Babylon because it has to be totally destroyed, completely and utterly, and that wasn't done before. So
Yeah.
It has to be rebuilt to be destroyed.
Yeah.
I can't see any other way either.
So anyways, it seems like maybe a lot of the stuff, they protect themselves. Some of them, they can't. But they have all the resources, basically. But now, it's like judgment comes right upon where the beast is. And just like was warned up here, those people, that it's coming for Babylon. And this one here is the darkness. And they nod their tongues for pain. So it's amazing. Even though there's probably, I don't know if this is still going on at the same time or not, this scorching heat, and all of a sudden they're in total blackness. And they gnaw their tongues for pain, whether it's because of the sword or just something dealing with that. No idea, but it's upon the kingdom. And those that are there. Yeah, okay, and this is they blaspheme God, and because of their pains and their sores, they repented not. And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and this is the drying up. See, this one corresponds again to here was on the river Euphrates, but it corresponds, and that's why you can see people have stacked them underneath each other. Okay, now, again, that's what we were taught too, because they correspond, each one of them, so well. Like, and yet they're different. That's the other part of it. Like this, there was a little bit of blackness because when the pit was open, there was that smoke as a sackcloth over covering the sun and stuff. Here is darkness, but over specific locality too, near Babylon. You go with the 5th one, the 6th one. Deal with the 4 demons in the river Euphrates and the 200 million horsemen. Well, the river Euphrates here is dried up. So you can see, well, maybe they correspond. Maybe there's 200 million horsemen are the kings from the east. The heavenly is affected. But see, these, it's turned down. So it seems funny, it's turned down, and yet they're scorched. But it does seem to relate. And then this is third destroyed, and all of a sudden it's totally destroyed. This earth part means upon the earth, it's this green grass, but this is just upon the men, the source. But it's all men who have not the image. And again, that's a key word. It says, who have not the mark. So this kind of keys it into over here. So there's a lot of similarities. Now, again, these similarities can be due to maybe the type of idols they were worshiping, or it's just every sphere that deals with man. I mean, this is our realm, so it's judging every part, showing God is in control of every part. That's why I'm starting to tend more to this kind of view. Even though they're similar, it's trying to show in every realm God is in control, and yet there's a lot of similarities in some ways of the areas that they affect, because it's every area. But anyways, your Euphrates is dry, and that allows the kings of the east to come. And the idea is they're going to come. There's the next part is the three demons that come out, finally to group them all up. Whoever these spirits are, these frog-like spirits, maybe they go around as frog. Maybe with all the demon movies and stuff that are on it, probably people will accept it by then, just don't judge a book by its cover. He's kind of a good guy inside. You know he's a frog. He's a teenage mutant ninja frog. And so anyways, but he draws the kings, and this allows them to all come. And it's going to be to Armageddon, that whole valley, that whole strip of valley that actually goes like almost about 180 miles. And they'll probably all fit there. And it's just finally the judgment comes. But anyways, so you have this, and then you have the three devils, for they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, going forth into the kings of the earth, whole earth, and gathering to the battle, the great day of God Almighty. So you have the three demons, three angels, three demons. It's interesting. God has his three angels in the heavenly with their message. You have the three demons with their message. It's like the counterfeit again, but gathering all the men. And then his saying, I come as a thief. And basically, a lot of times, I think just like that statement, a thief in the night, is just the idea they're not prepared. And it's not so much the silentness of a thief. If you're not home, a thief doesn't have to be silent. You're just not home. It's you're not prepared. If the strong man was home and he's prepared, the thief's not going to get in, no matter how silent he is. But the idea is not silentness. That's why a lot at first attributed this to rapture. It's not. It's the second coming. They're not prepared spiritually for his coming. And but blessed is he that watches and keepeth his garments. So basically, be prepared. All this time, he's telling them he's coming, and he wants to be prepared spiritually, and they're not repenting of their deeds. And he gathered them together into a place called Hebrew tongue Armageddon. And the seventh angel poured out his vial, and there's a great voice saying, "It is done," and thunders and lightnings and earthquake, since there was never such an earthquake. And the great city was divided. So there's 7 bowl, and this is the great. Now notice there's always been earthquakes throughout, one after each message or so, and then there was certain ones where it was an earthquake. It seems like to be an earthquake after every one of the major starts. Earthquake. But this is a great earthquake, not to this extent. Things are totally leveled, flattened, gone. Things are raised. Lord, if you go to some of the Old Testament prophecies, the millennial reign, the kingdom, is basically the land is almost like flat. With just like gently maybe rolling hills and that, but just basically almost flat. The area that the millennial temple that Ezekiel talks about, I think it's like 100 miles, about 100 miles or something. Like the land area that's beyond is just huge, and it's all raised and lowered. And when the Lord comes, he splits the Mount Olives. He splits it. And so you have Mount Zion and you have 2 Mount Olives. I don't know, maybe one is the Trinity. I don't know what it represents. But anyways, it